What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and as always, it's my continuing mission to bring you reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap. And today, I am stoked to be taking a look at Star Wars Battlefront 2, out now for those who got the deluxe version, and in a couple days for everyone else. Let's see if the inclusion of a single-player campaign, a robust arcade mode, in the game's tried-and-true multiplayer can offset the fact that these guys apparently have absolutely no friggin' clue what they're doing when it comes to the longevity of their own game. Changing the amount of time and credits it take to unlock the hero characters in the game, including lowering them dramatically for an earlier review event, which I have to assume was somewhat like that moment Han gets his money in Star Wars and just basically says, "See ya, bitches." Let's see how it did, shall we? As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's my review for Star Wars Battlefront 2. Mission areas the size of small bedrooms, the world's scariest robots, and horrible camouflage. Graphics are up first. You know, the Battlefront games are no slouch, and the original title was a stunning set piece, especially as it added that PBR lighting that really made everything pop. And for the most part, the sequel picks up there with an incredibly powerful lighting engine throwing debris, particles, smoke, and just overall mayhem at your face, while rarely missing a beat, regardless if you're on the Xbox One, PS4, the Pro, or the Xbox X, or the PC. Now, Star Wars absolutely nails some of the canon as well, with Inferno Squad's uniforms having both a utilitarian and this outright dark fantasy build to them that shows an attention to detail in Star Wars and in this game that is actually a little bit rare. I love the droid on the back of the main character. Spectacular stuff, and it doesn't matter if you're bullseyeing womp rats or chasing that one last X-Wing around a rebellion cruise ship as you're trying to make sure the pilot ends up as nothing more than a blue hologram shadow at someone's funeral wake like Vader. It just looks spectacular. Smoke effects and sparks wick off engines as they bleed out fuel, and locations crumble into so much ruin as you tromp through them in an AT-AT, tearing out the ass end of the Empire like a street-side burrito through someone's unsuspecting intestines. Texture work also continues to be relatively phenomenal as well, with a keen eye towards making the locations you battle through look like something a director of one of the new movies might scout out for later filming. It's not perfect, but I really do dig some of the texture work here. Now, that doesn't mean everything is perfect. While I love the effects of the shots and their placement far more than the original game, this one had a lot of enemies who just died and then upped and friggin' forgot about the physics completely, shooting off behind me like death meant instant teleportation elsewhere in the game. Also, just like the last games, the heroes are one of the main focus points, and while the ranged heroes look good, the up-close heroes look like they've replaced collision detection with collision suggestion. It has you rampaging through rocks, people, walls, stairs, and pretty much anything in the game world. It can look hilarious when Luke flies past you, kills you with a well-timed lightsaber blow that misses you by like 5 feet and then slams face first into a friggin' mountain like it's the first use of the Jedi Power Force dinosaur. Now, when it comes to performance, the consoles all attempt to get 60 FPS, but do so in a variety of ways, mixing dynamic resolution with checkerboarding on various systems, and that being said, you are left with the typical atypical ramp-up of the Xbox One, PS4, then PS4 Pro, and Xbox, with the X not only outperforming the competition, but doing so handedly while delivering an almost shot-for-shot comparison to PC versions with the settings on high. That being said, all versions, including PC, do have some drops in FPS, and being able to brute force them on the PC is always a nice thing, which you can't do on the actual consoles. Are those issues enough to detract from gameplay? You know, sometimes you'll notice them, but overall I would say no. Altogether, Star Wars Battlefront 2 tries to deliver across the board, and in some ways it absolutely does, but the variable frame rate still rears its ugly head in the busy sections. Sound, music, and voice.
Yes, sir. Fighters, form up on those rebel transports. Stop them from boarding the Dauntless and I'll take them down. Need a slice. I've located the encrypted intel.
And of course, sound is up first, and it is phenomenal. Listen, rarely are you going to see game studios come close to the movie studios when it comes to sound, and much of that's due to the fact that a game's variable, and with player interaction and adjustment, you can have layering issues and all sorts of problems. Not so with Battlefront 2. The game delivers from Wookiee screams to explosions, ricocheting metal death pieces around a level, hyperspace speed. It just works incredibly well, and due to the way the game has both campaign and multiplayer and how it plays out, you can easily hear weapons you would have only heard a couple times in the movies, which results in this fresh feel to the title with those new audio experiences. Also, processing on the game's environments is spot on, with occlusion cutting off and muffling the high-pitched, fast laser fire of an enemy as you sprint around them trying to flank them, and you leave the room, go down a hallway, and enter in the back, and you have that huge wave of sound that hits you again as you enter it. Spectacular work, and its channel separation is perfect, resulting in nice and wide spaces for the audio to play out, which can save your life more times than not, especially if you're one Jedi against like 500 stormtroopers in one of the onslaught levels. Overall, I love the sound. Music. I have to say, Gordy Hab nailed it. It is an excellent Star Wars score while still offering unique bits and themes for specific characters, for example. And it absolutely works. And while heavy on the big set piece vibes at times, there's always little moments like the theme of characters as they walk through a tunnel together that works incredibly well. It really is a difficult spot to try to dive into themes so well known, but I think Gordy shines here and the music direction is actually pretty perfect. And of course, that brings us to voice, and this is well done, but there were a couple little issues. And I can't lie, I was a little bit disappointed, less so in the delivery than in the writing. For example, Eden Verso, leader of Infernal, is excellent for the most part and delivers a performance that's equal do right and do right now that I love so much when characters and duty sort of end up being at odds. The issue is it jumps all over the place, and the conflict she feels should be many magnitudes higher than she seems to experience, and you see in a single mission later in the game that deft handling and writing of another character instantly trumps the emotional feeling that she has. That being said, they also did a pretty good job for the most part getting a different vocal cast that'll have you sort of questioning who in the game are the original actors and who are their replacements. It's not perfect, you'll notice a couple weird ones, but you won't be wondering why the Emperor sounds like a post-throat cancer operation warning video or anything bad like that. Overall, I'd say pretty good, but it has a couple issues with its writing. And of course, that brings us to gameplay and a bit about the story. And let's cover single player. You play as Verso, lead of Infernal Squad, and play out the timeline right around before and during the second Death Star getting destroyed as you play out the parts of the scarily named Operation Cinder. And of course, like any good Star Wars game, you follow them and others through a series of missions that'll have you laying down fire and AT-ATs involved in heavy troop deployments on alien worlds and performing mini stealth missions on rainy fortress planets. And this is easily, at least to me, one of the game's biggest strengths. It also loves to throw you into the shoes of other characters, and you find yourself jumping into the shoes of a number of them while playing the campaign. And to me, this works both for and against it. It does indeed offer a unique feel to the titles. You see things not only from your side, but from those around you who may not have all the reason in the world to think you won't force choke them. But it also separates the story a great deal, and it lessens a large amount of the impact of the main campaign. Also, I don't think there's a more in-your-face way to show that there's going to be DLC later, other than pretty much replacing the credits with something that says, yo, buy our DLC later. Now, enemy AI is fairly good on the higher levels, but if you play on the lower levels, expect some idiotic movements. I mean, the number of times the enemy hit on my side with me, despite me being the one shooting at them, was countless. It was like they were asking for leniency by showing that they'd fight on my side. Also, the game's AI is not patient. Sit behind a tree trunk for just a couple moments, and even the most dug-in rebel scum is going to come traipsing out, tra-la-la, to see if the coast is clear. Even on the harder difficulties, you'll notice this. Now, when it comes to the length of the campaign, you got 13 levels and about 4 to 5 hours, with that raising if you have the difficulty higher or if you find the AT-AT is hard to fire and aim, as I did. Seriously, what the hell is happening there? Everything else in the game world feels and controls like those little Shriner cars in parades, just zip zooming around levels like they have somewhere to go and everyone is tight on time. But then you jump into the AT-AT, and it's like the computer systems are inebriated. And yes, I get it. You're basically controlling the world's largest robotic cat. But honestly, whoever designed this would have seen the first time someone tested it out on the firing range and said, you know what, let's use homing missiles instead. Here's the kicker, though. Rarely have I seen a game so noticeably taken with other titles in the genre, and their own stable, in fact. Every single mission is the same trite launching into an area, killing everyone, or sitting at a waypoint and getting ready to rally and run forward, like every World War II game you've ever seen. Also, the game makes me feel the easiest way to be a good guy is to basically just say, you know what, I don't like that I killed all your families, let's be friends, and then everyone high-fives and sits down to drink some tab. Also, the game absolutely loves the term, you are leaving the mission area. I get it. You're the Empire, so obviously anything 400 feet or beyond the level of control and your dog yard collar is going to go off. But jokes aside, the levels are actually small, and the difference between having the story play out and instead having a faded black and white screen informing you that you've left the sphere of influence of evil can be the difference between flying in a straight line and flying just 1 degree downgrade. But despite all that, make no mistake, moments of scripted brilliance do show themselves from time to time here, but they're also mired in moments that feel ripped from Battlefield and Call of Duty games almost verbatim, really hurting the title in many ways. There is one scene, while on a planet here, getting quickly overrun, that looks and plays like every single damn generic invaded homeland level you have ever played in a game prior. It is almost like the writing is cribbed directly from it. It doesn't do anything with the Star Wars canon, and whenever the single player tries to, it's like everyone decides, you know what, it'd probably just be easier to end the level right here and show it in a cutscene. And of course, all this brings us to multiplayer. First, you have the expected stuff like deathmatch. You have arcade, which allows for you to go out against AI in both team deathmatch style as well as one against all the enemy kind of games that I actually admit was really fun, especially as you do those as the heroes right from the start. There are about 10 plus maps to jump into, and the connection so far hasn't been all that bad when playing multiplayer, and you can do Galactic Assault with up to 40 people, Star Fighter Assault with 24 in massive space battles. You can do a thing called Heroes versus Villains, which is a strange what-if kind of scenario. You can do Strike, which is objective-based teams fighting it out, and Blast, which is basically just team deathmatch and no objectives. Now, without hesitation, Assault and Starfighter can be fantastic moments of brilliance. There are times when you're splitting an enemy group down the center and you're TIE Fighter, and these have all the stability of a wicker friggin' basket. And when you pull off that shot, it feels epic. The more you battle, the more points you get, and if you get enough, you can bring a hero out into the battle as well. Not that different from many games in the genre or the originals and the various ideas we see. Each class also, as always, has its own strengths and weaknesses, and I have to say, this too was handled fairly well. I adore Assault, for example. Slow-moving, but incredibly hard-hitting. That's a class that really feels like we see a trade-off, where a character isn't just a bit slower, but moves like the morning's cocktail included rum and Ambien. If there's anything I personally really like, though, it's the levels. And yes, I get it, this is going to be more personal preference than anything, but I feel like they have just the right amount of action, anarchy, and side things occurring on them to at times feel like they are supposed to actually feel. For example, large-scale battles actually feel large-scale, something that isn't always handled well in shooter titles. And control is spot on, either on keyboard and mouse or with the controller for the console. It's all nailed down just like the original. The problem is, indeed, in the details. First, let's discuss the microtransactions. They aren't just infecting everything in the title, it's an infection whose rate is actually completely unknown. EA has panic programmed themselves into a black hole of stupid. Originally, heroes took a full work week to get, like EA thought, hey, you know what, people like working, let's remind them of things they don't do while playing video games. And now they've cut it down to about 25% or something around there. But the fact is the entire system is so soft, so problematic, and so changing that often you're never quite 100% sure what's going to happen when you log in. What change are they going to have now? In fact, the game almost has no feeling of progression throughout it. And the star cards are either boosts or abilities that are all connected to opening loot crates. And the game has 3 currencies, mind you. And as you know, if a game is ever going to have you trading gold for diamonds so you can make yourself a fancy pair of emerald shoes, they're trying to screw you in some way. And this time, the screwing is without remorse. For example, when it comes to the star cards, they can add new abilities and boost your characters, and anyone can have them, but other than crafting the ones you want, which takes about as many crafting resources as most gamers have patience for this shit, your only recourse is, that's right, buying crates with real money. First, buying crystals, because that's what you want to do, is obfuscate what you're actually doing in a game when it comes to buying shit. And you have this coupled with a completely odd grinding system, and you have a systematic plan for disaster on your hands, especially because you jump in and somebody may have spent a bunch of money and they are roasting everyone on a map. And of course, sure, some people are going to laud them for changing stuff at various times, both pre and post launch, and I get that. But when a company's randomly just changing percents and can't seem to figure out where their own balance is, that's a problem. Just changing shit doesn't work. Hell, if the world worked like that, just adding a 10 to the calculation for space travel would mean someone could get to Pluto when they originally planned to go to Mars. It's more complex than that. And devs can't talk and do interview after interview about how detailed and complex their systems are and how everything's tied together and then say, yo dog, we changed the payout system again. No worries, it's just one number. You don't have to program for anything more advanced than the Apple II GS, and you know that it doesn't work that way. All that being said, and despite my hatred for microtransactions and people who are running around with all their star cards maxed out because they spent a couple $100, there is actually a great feeling to the loop of gameplay violence here, and the big galactic conquest maps can be breathtaking, make no mistake. The issue here is that we see a good example of microtransactions that ruin a title versus some random things that don't really impact the game overall, and that's why the fidelity of this discussion needs to continue. Here they impact everything so much they had to change it for a review event. And of course that brings us to fun factor. Yes, I had a good time at times. There's some really okay shooting and there's some excellent set pieces. But you know what? While you're playing this game, even more so than the first one, there is this strange feeling that they are trying to enwrap you just due to the graphics. to sort of cause you to feel like, oh man, this thing looks so amazing. I'm just going to play one more game. I'm just going to experience one more thing, and I'm just going to spend, $1 more on a star card. And I hate that. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale, with rent being replaced by deep, deep sale for PC. And that's what this is, a deep, deep sale or rent. If you have a couple bucks and you get a chance, Redbox, Blue Box, one of your subscription services like EA Access, then you know what? Maybe you want to check out the single player because at least it's somewhat good looking and there's some fun parts. But when it comes down to it, the multiplayer itself, which, let's be honest, this game absolutely hinges on, frankly, this is the first and only PC game I can remember being a full $60 and feeling exactly like every mobile title out there. Really a shame. There's some stuff to like, but right now, completely infected. So that's it for me. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Maybe check out Twitter or Patreon. That's how I continue to give you guys reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.